Good afternoon. I pray that your weekend was filled with spaces and places of joy, of peace, of happiness, that you had opportunity to do something that you wanted to do with social distancing and with proper precautions put in place. Some people have taken drives to the water, they have their mask on, they are still practicing distancing from others, but they're doing things that they just really want to do and becoming very creative in how to improvise so they're not putting themselves at risk or someone else. So I pray that your weekend you found a space to do something that you really wanted to do. We're continuing our conversation about toxic relationships with the focus on trying to determine, is this relationship worth saving? What can we do if we really don't want to break up? We really want to keep this relationship whole. And so today we're going to talk about accountability, being accountable. And right now in these COVID streets, there are a number of people who are hooping and hollering because they don't want to be held accountable. Those are the people who are like, I am not wearing a mask. Why do I have to wear a mask? It goes against my rights. They don't want to be accountable in their actions. And I must confess, I don't really understand that way of thinking because to me, being accountable means I'm keeping myself safe as well as keeping others safe. And even if, let's pretend, I really didn't care about other people, it would be about me keeping myself safe more than anything else. And so, but accountability is saying, I care enough about this relationship, I'm invested enough, I want this thing to work on a level that I am willing to be held accountable. Some of us aren't able to be accountable on our own, but it works if we allow others to hold us accountable. And what does that mean? I'm going to be accountable and I'm going to do what I say that I'm going to do. I'm going to go the places I say where I'm going to go. I'm going to speak in a manner where I'm accountable for my language and my actions. If I call you out of your name, I'm going to take accountability for it. I'm not going to use excuses and say, well, you made me feel such and such a way, or you did it first. I'm going to be accountable and say, when I said this, when I called you or this or that, that was wrong. I was acting out of my feelings and I want to apologize. Notice the difference. I did not say, when you said this, this triggered me, so therefore I did. That's a convoluted apology at best because it doesn't take accountability. It places the responsibility of your actions on someone else. And guess what? You're the only one who's responsible for your responses. You're not responsible for how people react to you or what they say, but you are responsible for your own responses. And so accountability is extremely important in toxic relationships. If the relationship is toxic, it means that either one or both are not willing to be held accountable or to hold themselves being accountable. We all know that we have made some pretty poor choices at some point in our life. Sometimes we can be petty as all get out if we are honest with ourselves because we're human beings and we grew up in a culture, we exist in a culture that talks about you're not going to get the best of me. I'm going to defend myself no matter what. And that's okay. But as my mother used to say, if you're bad enough to do it, be bad enough to say that you did it. Be accountable. If you're going to be messy, but own your messiness. If you're going to be petty, own your pettiness. If you're going to be mean and sarcastic and trivial, own it. Do not try to make the other person feel guilty for your behavior. If that is the pattern that's going on in your relationship, whatever that relationship is, then the toxicity will not decrease. It will continue to increase. Accountability means that both parties have decided to participate in a, and I'm going to say in quotes, mature fashion. I'm going to say in quotes because some of these toxic relationships is you and your children. Okay, I never forget when my daughter was in, I think, the second grade. In the whole second grade year, she had a series of substitute teachers. They could not find a permanent teacher. And I remember one of the teachers who she actually started with, who seemed to be pretty good. But when I would pick my daughter up, she would always say something about, those kids made me do this. Those kids made me do that. Those kids. And I used to think in the back of my head, how are you giving so much responsibility to second graders? Okay, they're children. They're second graders. You're an adult. You have a degree, if not one, or at least two. How are these children impacting your, seems to be, regular behavior? And so when we're dealing with children, we have to look at accountability possibly from a different standpoint. A lot of times kids, because they're not mature, they're not necessarily able, they are learning how to be accountable. And guess who they're learning it from? They're learning it from us. If what they're witnessing is us always putting our behavior off on somebody else, then that's exactly what they're going to do. But if they're witnessing us take responsibility for our sometimes poor relationship, then they're learning that lesson also. I know some people who pride themselves in saying, I'm never apologizing to my child. I'm the adult. That's probably not the best parenting advice to give. Everyone deserves an apology if they have been wronged and you have been the person to wrong them. You want an apology if someone wrongs you. So it's all about being accountable. And again, as I've said in other videos, if both parties are not willing to invest the time and the energy in repairing the relationship, then accountability doesn't really matter because the relationship is not going to heal. But if both parties have committed to being responsible, have committed to being accountable, have committed to paying attention to what we say to each other and how we say it, and if we have been offensive, apologizing for that offense, that's called being accountable. I have worked with clients who have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, who are very quick-tempered. They go from 0 to 100 very quickly. They're known to explode. But one of the things they did in their healing path is they gave their spouses or partners or someone in their life permission to hold them accountable. And what does that mean? That when the person says to them, you behaved kind of wild, you kind of went off, you were over the top, as opposed to cursing the person out or doing a big justification, they stopped and agreed to actually listen. And whether they agreed or not, they at least agreed to listen without explanation, because recognizing that allowing someone else to hold you accountable, you're giving that person permission because you know that person only wants the best for you. Now, some of you are giving toxic people permission to hold you accountable, and that's a whole nother problem, because do they really want what's best for you, or do they want what's best for them? That's something you have to tease out. Whose best interest is being served? And that's why it's important that both partners, both parties buy into this equally, and that they do it on purpose. My prayers are for those of you who live in areas where there are pending hurricanes, or maybe you're in the midst of it right now. If you are in the places where there are wildfires going out of control, my prayers are with you also. My prayers that we all will be safe, that we will all be able to get through these different challenges and get to the other side whole and healthy. And even if things are affected, I saw a picture of someone whose house burned down, and I was sad, but I also was inspired, because I know that what can be lost, there can be beauty from ashes. that you can begin again. And that's my prayer for each and every one of us as we move on this path of healing. You can begin again. Healing is possible if you focus on it on purpose. Love you all. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.